Welcome to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and today my guest is Madelyn Dunlap from the ReWild Group. She's here to talk to us about the 6 non-negotiables that startups need to be aware of. So thanks for coming, Madelyn.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Mary. I really appreciate it.
Okay, real briefly, tell us a little bit about the ReWild Group.
Yeah, so the ReWild Group, we're a small firm here in Denver, Colorado. We've studied businesses over decades to really bring in a simple, usable way information that business leaders can use to grow their business, to go from being the reactive business leader where the business happens to you to being more proactive, trying to be able to see that road out in front of you.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's get right to the chase here. Talk about some of the non-negotiables.
The non-negotiable rules are what we see as being those things you have to check off to set yourself up for growth. And it doesn't mean that if you don't check them off, you won't grow. In fact, we see lots of times that businesses will grow despite having ignored non-negotiable rules. But the best way to think of it is as you grow, for every non-negotiable rule you don't complete, it's kind of like climbing a mountain and putting a rock in your backpack. It makes it harder, right? You might still get up to the top, but you might have been carrying this additional weight and had to really work a lot harder to get up to the top of the mountain. And so that's how we think of non-negotiable rules. They are non-negotiable in that you do them and they set you up for success. You don't do them and they drag on your company, and they'll drag on your company until you get them taken care of. So the non-negotiable rules, we break those down into 6 areas of the business. Okay. Business development, business model and plan, finance, leadership, operations, and workplace community. And just a note really quick about those 6 areas. One of the most important things about these non-negotiable rules is that you're making sure you're growing your business proportionally. A lot of times your business is a reflection of you as the entrepreneur. So if you're great at sales, your business thrives at sales. And if you're a very organized, process-oriented individual, your business looks like that too. But our businesses often also reflect our weaknesses. And so what we can find is that businesses grow, but they grow in the areas where we are most comfortable growing them. And what we fail to do is grow them proportionally. So organizing these rules in that way is very critical. It's intentional to achieve growth across your entire business. Or the cliche saying of you're only as strong as your weakest link holds true.
Right. Okay, so let's look at the first area and let's talk about a couple of rules.
That sounds great. So in the area of business development, there's 2 rules for a stage 1 business. The first is focus 80% of your resources on selling 2 to 3 of the highest margin offerings. And the second rule is set in place a customer relationship management system.
Okay, so you absolutely need a CRM, and you should be spending 80% of your time on the top 2 or 3 things that make you the most money, right?
Right, exactly. Well, the problem is a lot of us start up a business and we are so focused on generating revenue that we'll almost sell anything to anyone. Right. And the problem is that we haven't taken the time to really understand, even if we sell it, are we making money on it? And the economies of scale we can achieve, and really the sustainability in our business we can achieve with focusing.
Sure. A lot of startups have one item that they're trying to sell or bring to market, or a particular kind of service that may have more than one application, but it's a single service that they're trying to bring to market. So yeah, they probably spend more like 100% of the time on a single thing, because that's what a startup does. And do you have what goes into picking a CRM? What kinds of questions does a startup need to ask to know that that a particular CRM is good for them?
Yeah, there's probably as many CRM options out there as there is business types. But the biggest thing is to have the organization to track your clients, your prospects in a way that facilitates business development. Because so many of us don't have that ability. So for some businesses, quite honestly, an Excel spreadsheet might even be sufficient. Dare I say that? I'm a systems person, but there's so many great free resources. It needs to be something that you can use. Anyone in your organization needs to be willing to use it, and it needs to be just able to track those prospects and those clients in a way that you can continue to reach out to them and connect with them.
And even a good basic CRM will keep track of your contacts, your calendar, your email access to your contacts, and your scheduling and your invoicing. So you should be able to take notes about contacts and set up tasks to schedule when you're going to see them and when you need to follow up and what you talked about the last time.
Yes.
Right. All that good stuff. Okay. Do we have time to do some other rules from like the next group of?
Yeah. So business model and plan. We've got 2 rules here again. Identify the company's 3 revenue groups and offerings, and identify the company's 3 customer segments. Very basic rule. What do you sell, and who do you sell it to? And Mary, as you pointed out, sometimes that's really simple. Sometimes we've got this one service or widget that we're selling, but maybe there's different industries you're trying to focus on. Clarify that. Know who those people are.
Yeah. And know that when you're selling to one segment, you're going to be using certain terminology and certain approach. And when you're selling to another segment, it's a little different. I had a client who was selling sleep pods, particularly good for autistic kids because it helps do the sensory deprivation they need to actually get a night's sleep. So there's that market and the reason for getting the sleep pod for that market. But there's also the fact that this sleep pod looks like a little rocket ship. And if you're a rich kid and you want to sleep in a rocket ship, you're going to want this sleep pod. And the market there is a whole different approach.
Absolutely. And so if you're clear about those markets, you can be more effective at speaking to them because you're exactly right. It should inform how you interact with those potential clients and why they would be interested in what you have.
Exactly. Okay. And on to number 3.
On to number 3, finance. Generate, track, and preserve cash. That one seems like a no-brainer for the stage 1 business, but it is a non-negotiable rule. And one more on there, establish company key performance indicators. Just a handful of those to say, what is success? And we want to review those monthly. So we're keeping a pulse on that. A lot of times your financial system can be a great source for those KPIs.
Well, it's essential to know your numbers. You need to know what's going out and what's coming in. And you need to know where it's coming in from and where it's going out to. So that's a big piece of knowing your numbers. And key indicators might be dollars, but it might be how many contacts have you made that month? How many outreaches have ended up in how many sales calls, which have ended up in how many closings. So those are the kinds of tracking that you need to do to A, have a real good sense of how your business is doing, and B, you've got it all set down so that when you're ready to apply for venture capital, they know that you really know what you're doing and keep a handle on just how profitable or how fast you're growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Valuable in the moment, and also just to show how organized and how well you know your business.
Okay. So can people get a copy of these 6 areas and the non-negotiable rules from you?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually have a downloadable sheet for each of these areas on our website.
Okay, great. So we will put that link in the chat. Thank you very much, Madelyn Dunlap from the ReWild Group. We will give you folks all the great information about how to contact her and get the list of the non-negotiables for business growth. Thank you for coming to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I help get startups ready for venture capital faster. Hope to see you again next week.